Some of you of a certain age will remember the old TV game show To Tell the Truth. For those of you who never had the pleasure, it went something like this. A panel of 4 celebrities had to guess which of 3 mystery characters was the real person and which were imposters. The host would read a brief bio, then the celebrities each had a chance to ask the characters questions to try to smoke out the imposters. Then each of the celebrities would guess which of the people was the real person. Finally, the host would say, "Will the real John Doe please stand up?" In today's reading from 2 Corinthians, Paul continues his defense of his apostolic authority. He does this against the background of other self-styled apostles who claimed authority but who preached a different Jesus from the one Paul proclaimed. It dawns on me that Paul is playing an early version of To Tell the Truth and is asking in effect, will the real Jesus Christ please stand up? Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. One thing to remember about the early church is they didn't yet have a New Testament. Their Bible was our Old Testament. There were no Gospels, no collection of letters from Paul or other people, nothing. So there was no authoritative set of texts Paul could appeal to in order to demonstrate that the Jesus he preached was the authentic Jesus, and that the portrayals of Jesus by some other preachers who came through Corinth were false. Here's how he begins. I wish you would bear with me in a little foolishness. Do bear with me. I feel a divine jealousy for you, for I promised you in marriage to one husband, to present you as a chaste virgin to Christ. But I'm afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by its cunning, your thoughts will be led astray from a sincere and pure devotion to Christ. For if someone comes and proclaims another Jesus than the one we proclaimed, or if you receive a different spirit from the one you received, or a different gospel from the one you accepted, you submit to it readily enough. I think that I'm not in the least inferior to these super apostles. I may be untrained in speech, but not in knowledge. Certainly, in every way and in all things, we have made this evident to you. So apparently, the Corinthians were fickle, or at least impressionable. From what we can tell from all of Paul's letters, there were itinerant preachers, not unlike him, who traveled to the different churches and preached, often for a fee, or at least what we would call a free will offering. Presumably, some of them preached a reasonably close version of the faith to what Paul preached and taught. But at least some of them preached a version of the gospel Paul found deeply troubling. Again, based on reading several of Paul's letters where he addressed the same problem, these preachers taught that one had to adhere strictly to the law of the Hebrew Bible in order to be a Christian. In other words, Gentile Christians would have to become Jewish converts first in order to be Christian. And in order to become Jewish, the male Gentile converts would have to submit to circumcision. Paul's objection to this form of Christianity was that it implied that one could be made acceptable to God by one's proper adherence to the law. And Paul was absolutely clear that only grace makes us acceptable to God. His rhetoric about this in his various letters demonstrates what a problem this was and how strongly he felt about it. The tip that this is what Paul is talking about here is that he brands these people super apostles, literally hyper apostles. The gospel they preached, therefore, would have reduced the importance of Jesus Christ in our salvation. While we don't know the exact details of these super apostles' preaching, it is clear that it was a highly demanding gospel, one which would effectively divide the church into ranks according to how strict one adhered to the law. One group could then say, "You're not as serious about the faith as we are. because we are much more strict in the way we practice the faith. Such an attitude will destroy the church. It leads to spiritual pride on the part of the stricter members, a pride that divides rather than unites. All of this is to say that it was important for Paul to remind the Corinthians who the true Jesus is, not an impostor who demands rigid adherence to the law, but one who does for us what the law and our best efforts could not do. In other words, a Jesus of grace, not of law. Come to think of it, Paul wasn't just talking about an ancient controversy long dead. He continues to speak to a church that always seems to want to produce super Christians who believe themselves superior to the rest of us. Turns out, we still need the real Jesus to stand up. Tomorrow, Paul boasts, but not about how great he is. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.